Don't mind us just adjusting the camera.
Because I'm short.
Woo! Well, welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back.
I'm talking to you.
Oh, me? Why?
I don't know.
Why? What am I welcoming back to?
I was going to allude to another fight, and then I was like, well, we
Oh.
probably exhausted that joke. Also, is the mic on the right setting? Because I definitely did not check.
It's on the circle.
Okay, we'll go with it.
Not the butt.
That's fine.
Is that right?
That's what I think is
Okay.
right, but we fought about this last time.
Yeah, we did fight.
We
last
fought.
time.
So, news, updates?
Okay, so had something crazy happen to me today.
Okay.
So, well, not really to me, but I experienced it. So, I went to the gym, during my lunch, just for a quick, 30-minute workout. And I'm over there, lifting some weights. And next thing I know, I look outside the windows, and this guy goes up to this bike, this red motorcycle.
Mm-hmm.
And the red motorcycle is one of the gym's employees' bike. And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, that's not him. What in the world? So he goes up to the bike and he has this yellow, Springfield striping and ceiling shirt, like a company here in town that does the pavement and stuff. So I'm like, oh, well, maybe he's just moving the bike, because maybe they're going to work. Nope. He tries to get on the bike and steal the bike. Yeah, but he's hammered drunk and falls, and the bike falls into the window. Thankfully, it didn't shatter the glass, but I instantly dropped my weights and ran to the front desk, and I'm like, "Hey, some dude's trying to steal your bike."
Oh my god.
Yeah.
So did police show up and all that?
No. So they called the police, and because it's a non-emergency, the police did not show. So he just had to file a police report over the phone.
I think someone trying to steal my bike is an emergency.
Right. Yeah, and so apparently he tries to steal that bike, doesn't succeed obviously because it fell over, and he ran to the side of the building and tried to steal another motorcycle. But people
What?
people working out ran outside of the gym to go and try to catch this guy, and they didn't find where he went. He disappeared. And so whenever I left the gym, obviously, everyone was outside. I'm like, well, right behind the building is a fence. He probably hopped the fence into that neighborhood.
What the heck?
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Yes. I'm just kind of shocked that the police were
Yeah,
just
it's
call
an
us later.
emergency. Make a police report.
It's yeah,
over
but
the
we
phone.
can't stop him from trying to steal shit.
Yeah, I know. Isn't that crazy? But
Wow.
unfortunately, crime rate is just up. It's so bad. And they're just busier with other shit, I guess. I don't know.
Interesting.
I
Wow,
know.
that's
Crazy.
and just to be at the gym do.
Yeah, just working out. And I'm like, what in the world? He's trying to steal his motorcycle.
Yeah, and good thing you knew that. Otherwise, you
Yeah.
would have just thought, oh, this guy's drunk trying to get on his own motorcycle.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Wow, that's
Crazy.
exciting. My day wasn't nearly as exciting as that. As your 5 minutes.
My 5 minutes.
My whole day doesn't even compare to your 5 minutes.
Yeah,
so.
right. And it wasn't even 5 minutes, which is crazy. But yeah, so that's all I have.
Okay, well, let's just get into it.
Okay.
I have nothing to follow up with.
So our Something Spiked is from Scout and Cellar Oso Pardo. It's a Spanish white wine.
What does that mean?
I have no idea. But I can read you what it says.
Okay.
It says, deep within the Cantabrian Mountains dwell Los Osos Pardos, the brown bears of the northern Spain. For centuries, these majestic bears have been a symbol of pride, hard work, and natural splendor, the same ingredients that make this wine so delicious. Bienvenido a Oso Pardo.
Wow.
Time
That was beautiful.
to drink. Thanks. I tried.
All right, well, I'm excited to try it.
Yeah, I am too.
Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
Don't you dare sip that.
It's pretty good.
It's a little crisp.
Very refreshing.
Yeah.
Very light. So, I know we've talked about this brand before, but we do really like them. They don't have a bunch of additives or a bunch of sugar or anything like that. So, Scout and Cellar, if you're listening, sponsor us because we talk about you in our episodes.
Yeah. For free.
For free. All right.
Okay, so drinking word before we get into this.
God.
Ooh, that's a good one. Shit. Okay.
All right.
Guys, I'm going to read you our disclaimer, and then we're going to get into this. So, here we go. Drinking word is God. Not to be confused with Kanye. I was trying to think of a joke there, and then it just didn't work, so just erase that. Okay.
Yeah, she definitely did not nail that one.
Our videos and podcasts are for entertainment purposes. All information discussed was found on the internet. Keep in mind, we will talk all things sinister that may not be suitable for all audiences. Viewer and listener discretion is advised. Okay, so today we are talking about God! I'm kidding. Today we are talking about David Koresh, American cult leader of the Branch Davidians, claiming to be the final prophet or messiah, leading to the FBI's Waco siege that killed 76 people. Okay, and now it's a wrap. It's been a while since we've done culty stuff, and this is one of my favorite stories, if not my favorite. I mean,
for sure.
We've covered some pretty good ones, though, like Children of God, FLDS.
Yeah, I feel like this one's like an OG classic, like cult story. Mm-hmm. Same with like Jim Jones. And we haven't covered Jim Jones yet, which is going to be like awesome to cover because it's crazy. Yeah. People are just fucking crazy.
Dude, the cult mindset just blows my mind. But this one is incredibly sad, guys. There are kids involved, so trigger with kids and stuff.
Yeah, trigger with kids.
Because are we getting into it right now?
Just a little bit.
Okay, we're just gonna touch
high
on
level,
something.
like 10 seconds.
Yeah, 10 seconds. Okay, guys. So to be clear, we give our disclaimer at the beginning of our videos for a reason. True crime podcasts, but specifically ones that incorporate humor or comedy or dark humor or whatever you want to call what we do, are not for everyone, and we totally understand that.
Yep.
We recently got some feedback that was negative, and while we always appreciate feedback, sometimes this just isn't for you.
Yep.
And obviously, if you are a survivor or you have family or friends that have
been a
gone
victim
through
of some sort,
I would never suggest you listen to really any kind of true crime, but especially one we try to make it very clear that we have humor involved in our podcast.
Yep.
That being said, we do not in any way want to come off as making fun of victims, making these horrible situations it bad. But there are people who do cope with humor. There are people, like, I apologize all the time for nervous laughter. So just, we appreciate the feedback, but at the same time, what are you doing? Oh, keeping it so it doesn't go off? Okay, sorry. Alexa's editing in front of me. But keep in mind, this just probably isn't your podcast, and we don't do things intentionally, maliciously.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, we are a true crime comedy podcast, and that's it. And we don't think, all this stuff is funny, but we like to make it
lighthearted.
Make it lighthearted and make it funny. So if this isn't for you, then it's not for you. And we do apologize if we have ever, unfortunately, made you feel any type of way. But again, we give the disclaimer at the beginning of the episode.
Yes. So,
David Koresh.
Today we are talking about David Koresh, and it's Leo season. Woo-woo! I've been excited to talk about Leos. I don't know why. I think it's because I just like lions. So
yeah, I like lions too. My husband's a Leo, so I'm excited to learn a little more about his craziness.
Okay, well, get ready. So, there was a source specifically for this Leo as cult members or cult leaders. The source is called Your Tango. Leos are confident and proud, theatrical and creative. Leos have everything needed to be cult leaders. That was their quote. They are dangerously convincing while keeping things fun and upbeat. They lack sensitivity. They don't like to claim the blame, and they cover up their insecurities.
Oh.
And as we talk about David Koresh, he is all of these things. He is creative. He is outgoing. He was everything, like they said, to be a cult leader. So
lack sensitivity, that's for damn sure. Wow.
For show. And fun and upbeat. Like he's got, we'll go through all that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay.
So, born August 17th, 1959, under the name Vernon Wayne Howell in Houston, Texas. His mom was 14 years old when she had him. And before David was even born, his father, who was about 5 years older than mom. So we are kind of still talking about kids. It's kind of like, ooh, that weird teen into adult relationship. Ooh. But his father did meet another teenage girl and so abandoned David and his mom.
Oh, that's sad.
Yes. His mom, her name is Bonnie, then starts dating and living with a violent alcoholic.
Oh.
Yeah, so right off the bat, not good.
Red flag.
Yep. And when David was 4, his mother left with a boyfriend. I think it was the violent alcoholic. And he was sent to live with his maternal grandma. I didn't hear anything about grandpa. So I'm guessing at this stage in life, there's no father figures.
Right.
So.
Or if they are, it's a bad situation.
Exactly.
Clearly at a young age. Okay.
Yep. So he is with grandma for about 3-ish years. So at the age of 7, his mom does return. She is married to a carpenter, and they have a son, again, 1966-ish. David later describes his childhood as very lonely. He didn't do well in school. This was partially or allegedly due to his dyslexia. He was placed in the special education program. He was bullied and given nicknames like Mr. R-word. So really bad stuff. And it's actually said later that David was actually really intelligent.
Wow.
The dyslexia caused a lot of issues with him. It wasn't, I guess, recognized. And he actually did well in school, and we'll figure that out later. Like, he's a musician, blah, blah. But he drops out his junior year of high school. It was about this time, too, that David actually did meet his biological father.
Wow.
Not sure what happened there, but I have a feeling it didn't go well. So, at some point in his life, he moves to California in hopes of becoming a rock star. He was music obsessed. He is self-taught, and I guess was really talented. So, he became obsessed with God, Christianity, constantly reading or watching anything he could on Christianity, playing in Christian bands. And I believe that's how he was found or like discovered by the group.
Wow.
Was like playing, and they were like hanging out and like, hey man, what about the Davidians? So,
right.
Getting involved in Christian bands, blah, 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 blah. So at 19, there was something about having an illegal sexual relationship with a 15-year-old who gets pregnant.
Following in his dad's footsteps.
Right. But not really sure exactly where that led. But it doesn't matter because David becomes a born-again Christian in a Southern Baptist church. He joins his mom. So that's, I think, where he's like really getting heavily involved in Christianity. But then he joins his mom in the Seventh-day Adventist church, where he becomes infatuated with the pastor's daughter. Apparently, while praying for guidance, eyes closed, he opens them immediately and sees the Bible open to Isaiah 34:16, which says, "Seek ye out of the book of the Lord and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want her mate, for my mouth it hath commanded, and his spirit it hath gathered them." So how would you interpret that? I'm kidding.
Well, first of all, I need like today's English.
Right. Well, I'll give you how David interpreted.
Okay.
He went to the pastor and said, "God told me that she's mine."
Well, and that's kind of where I was going to go with it, was he's clearly infatuated with her, and he opens the Bible, or the Bible miraculously opens, and it's talking about a woman and, love and all that stuff, and so, yeah.
Yeah, well, the pastor said hell no and threw him out of the church.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
He said absolutely not. So 1983, he is around the age 24. David moves to Waco, Texas, and joins the Branch Davidians. It's not to be confused. We're going to get into this whole name thing because I was so confused by all these branches of the church. But this is not to be confused with the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay.
He sang. He played guitar. Same year, David claims to be a prophet receiving messages. It's speculated he was in a sexual relationship with Lois Roden, whose husband, or she's the widow of the founder of the Davidian Seventh-day Adventist Church.
Okay.
So the previous branch of what it is now.
Right.
She was in her 60s, and
he's like 20 years old.
Yep.
Oh my God. Or a little older than 20, but still.
It's a little strange.
Yeah,
but she
weird.
kind of is like counseling him. She likes his message, blah, 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 blah.
Okay.
So, he said God chose him to be the father of her child. So I'm like, good luck. And said that the child that they had would be the chosen one. So we're kind of starting to see like some like radicalness coming out of him.
Take your drink.
Sorry. So this same year, Lois does allow David to start teaching his own message called the Serpent's Root. This caused so much controversy in the church. One, it was a little bit more extreme than what they're used to.
Right.
But Lois had a son who intended on being the next leader of the church. Oh. And Lois is like, but what about my boy's way?
What about my little baby?
What about my little baby poopy? Okay, so I'm great at pet names. If you guys ever need a pet name for your partner, hit me up. So
Poopy.
David then, oh my God, I hate technology. David then says that God has instructed him to marry this woman in the church, Rachel Jones, who did later add Koresh to her name, but we're going to call her Rachel.
Okay.
And they are all at this... So, at this point, they are all at what is called Mount Carmel Center in Waco, Texas, the compound.
So he basically told Lois to kick rocks, and now he's interested in this other girl.
Yes. Well, I think he saw, like, younger girl, and was like, yeah.
Well, and Lois can't carry his child because she's in her 60s. So.
Exactly. And also, by him kind of now claiming Rachel, it kind of made everyone else, like, chill out.
Oh, that's good.
So I think there was, like, some political planning behind that.
Probably.
So, they only temporarily simmer down.
Okay.
A fire causing $500,000 in damages breaks out at this compound, or at the center, as they called it at the time.
Compound.
Right.
At this prison.
Prison. Well, that's basically what it becomes. So, Lois's son, we're just going to call him Roden by the last name, accuses David, who said that, quote, no man set that fire. So he's alluding that God had the fire set, is what he's doing.
Oh, gosh.
The rest of the group took Roden's side, and they kind of forced David out. David did have a few followers at this point, like around 25 people. Mm-hmm. But they forced him to leave at gunpoint.
Oh, my God.
You know, just do it right the first time.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
Yeah,
okay,
get the fuck out.
Yes.
And this is now church number 2 that he's about to be kicked out of.
Correct. Correctamundo. So life after leaving Mount Carmel was not easy. The group was basically living in camps for the next 2 years. 2 years.
Do we know how big this group was?
About 25 people.
So he had 25 people following him.
But they're like the hippie, but like this is like really where like the cult forms is right here.
Okay.
So he starts gathering followers out of California, the UK, Israel, Australia. He's doing a lot of this with music. Again, he's like really musically talented, very entertaining. It was while in Israel that David claimed to have a vision saying that he was the modern day Cyrus. So Cyrus is the Persian emperor who expanded lots of territories and freed the Jews from Babylonian captivity. So keep in mind, his name is not David Koresh at this point.
No.
It's Vernon Howell or whatever.
Right.
I'm pretty sure it's Koresh that translates into Cyrus somehow through Hebrew language.
Wow.
So that's where, we'll get into it. So there was a period where David wanted to set up this Davidic kingdom all across the world, but ultimately God told him that the U.S. was the place to be. So, convenient for him.
He probably knew that he would get more of a following.
Exactly. Yes, so. Exactly. So, also more money. That's kind of where I was feeling, money, lots, So, many of the followers, including David, really wanted to go back to Mount Carmel, but obviously they were, excommunicated, so that kind of put a little dent in the plan.
And that didn't work.
But David did claim to receive another message saying the prophecy would be fulfilled in Waco out at Mount Carmel. And what we mean by prophecy is, the coming of Jesus or the next coming.
Yeah.
I guess he's considering himself Jesus, so it's nothing good is going to happen unless I am at Mount Carmel in Waco.
In Waco, Texas.
Yes.
That is it. That is what God told him.
So, huge turning point here. Lois dies in 1986.
Oh.
David is actually really enjoying the following that he's built up. He has realized that these people will live in literal poverty for him.
Right.
So he is basking up in all of that. But he finds an opportunity to take over Roden, Lois's son, rightful leader of the kingdom. Roden's son is found exhuming a body from the community cemetery. So let me just read through this and then we'll go back I'll explain why this was happening. But Roden claims he was just moving the cemetery. So when you move the cemetery, you obviously have to move the body. It's okay. But David argues that it was a resurrection fail to prove that he was the new leader.
Oh my God.
David goes to the police and he's like, I found illegal activity, arrest this man, I'm going to take over Mount Carmel. And the police were like, listen, you have to have physical evidence. This is a huge accusation. But if you can get a photo of the exhumed body, go for it. So what does David do?
Oh my God.
He and 7 of his followers show up at Mount Carmel, all armed, ready to get their photo. A gunfight breaks out. And David and his followers are charged with attempted murder, but they were acquitted after a mistrial. So, I have heard basically that it was between Roden and some other guy, maybe it was David, but they were like, okay, the new leader of the church is going to be the person who can resurrect. If you're the Messiah, you can resurrect somebody. So, Roden seriously thought he was going to resurrect a body, and so he went and dug one up. But no body was found, blah, 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 blah. But David, anyway, so
it was like a bigger dick contest to see. And these people following them are fucking stupid.
I'll be honest. Stupid. If someone said, hey, Joe Schmo down the street is about to attempt to resurrect a body, you better fucking believe I'm front row and center with popcorn. Just to see it, happen.
Well, of course. But then you see him digging up a fucking body out of the ground.
I'd be pulling out my phone.
But come on, that's not, legit. He's just digging up a body. He's not resurrecting somebody.
Can you imagine?
Yeah, and these people are just watching it.
They're we are about to see so-and-so come back to life after he's probably fucking all disgusted and zombified in the ground.
Yeah, just a fucking skeleton. Oh. Okay.
So, but Roden doesn't help himself. So 3 years later, we're in 1989. Roden murders a man named Wayne Adair with an axe after Wayne states that he's actually the Messiah.
Shut up! Another dick contest.
But what's so funny to me is Roden was so sure that he was the Messiah, but then he brutally murders someone. I'm pretty sure the Messiah doesn't axe murder people.
No, and I'm pretty sure the Messiah wouldn't murder anybody in general. That goes against the 10 Commandments, and if you truly are the Messiah, you would never murder or inflict harm. Oh my God.
So here we are. But what Roden claims is that this man, it was in self-defense.
Oh, with an axe.
All I had with me was this massive axe.
That's the only thing that could protect me. Oh my God.
It was killed or be killed. So I had an axe.
Be killed.
But he said it was an act in self-defense. This man was sent to actually kill him by David. But the court said Too bad, so sad. He was deemed insane and sent to a psychiatric hospital.
Insane?
Yeah. Like, they're like, whoa, you're crazy. So, and it is said that, like, during all of this, like, this Roden guy is also going off the deep end. Like,
well, probably.
With the pressures of the church, the pressures of proving he's the Messiah, like, he's kind of off his rocker, too. And David and his followers do raise enough money to reclaim the property. Even in prison, though, Roden was, like, filing legal papers against them. All of that was denied.
Wow.
Roden happened to be thousands of dollars in debt, to no surprise, from unpaid taxes, and a meth lab was actually also discovered in the facility.
Shut up! So they were doing meth in the fucking church. I'm sure Jesus told him to do that, too. Yeah.
Jesus was like, if you're the real Messiah, you'll hit this real quick.
Yeah, so you'll make some meth and make some money. You know what? It couldn't have been like something like that was grown from this earth, like weed or fucking cocaine or like shrooms or the poppy plant or the opium plant, the poppy. Yeah. Like, it couldn't have been anything like that. It's the nastiest fucking drug full of chemicals. Meth.
So David, though, properly did, and he wanted to do this the clean way. He had police remove the meth lab. I will say this. David has had, like, up until now, there's no alcohol, there's no drugs.
Right.
Like, just...
He just...
It's all self-grown insanity, so...
Right.
1990, this is when David officially has his name changed, quote, for publicity and business purposes. And we're going to talk about name changes in a minute and what that, like, actually means. But Koresh is the biblical name of Cyrus the Great. David was in reference to King David. With the name change, he was, quote, professing himself to be the spiritual descendant of King David, like a Messiah-type figure, carrying out a divinely commissioned errand. Puke.
God, okay. So gross.
So follow me on this.
Okay.
This is how the Branch Davidians came to be and what a lot of cults/religions do when they run into trouble or radicals. So overall, the Branch Davidians believe in right. They believe in the imminent return of Jesus, but like apocalyptic style. And this is the important thing. They believe that living prophets can interpret God's word in the Bible. So that's why they put so much. I was like, why are they putting all these faith in people just walking around on meth like, oh, well, God told me to, like, why? Yeah. But that's why. Like, that is actually part of their religion.
Part of their belief system.
Yeah, so this started, obviously we have, like, the Seventh-day Adventists, but these names, guys. The General Association of Davidian Seventh-day Adventists. Like, can you imagine? They're like, that's we're going to need a bigger billboard. Like, we're going to need a bigger sign out front, guys.
Yeah, like, why couldn't it just be called The Church?
Right. Well, this was founded in 1935 when apparently plywood was abundant, so they could make as big of a sign as they needed to by Victor Hotef, who supposedly had special insight specifically to the book of Revelation, so hence all the hellfire and damnation.
Yeah, right.
Then the General Association of the Branch Davidians Seventh-day Adventists claimed to be a continuation, there was a new continuation after this Hotef guy died, founded in 1955 by the Rodens. So again, Lois and her husband and son, like, they kind of took over the new branch.
Got it.
Because he didn't, like, they were like, oh, we like most of his teachings, but we're going to slightly change it to fit our narrative. So then they changed the name. Then, let's see, the idea of Hotef, who was the OG, was for so Hotef, original guy, like I said, he was for the reform of the Seventh-day Adventists. That was rejected by the Adventists, clearly. They're like, no, you can't change religion.
Yeah, you can't change the
And so he's the one who started the Davidians. He's the one that settled them in Waco. And Roden basically did the same thing after his death. He was like, well, no, we're going to change this. Those people said no, or the leaders of the church said no. So he's like, okay, fine, we'll create our new whatever. So where the branch comes in is there's a new message from God. And he wrote a whole series of letters that he called the branch. get it like an extension, a branch. It's so cute. And boom, new religion.
Right. So, all of a sudden.
Yep. So, after Roden Sr. dies, Lois takes over, teaches David, who separates with his followers to start the Davidian, Branch Davidian, Seventh-day Adventist Association. So basically what we're doing is we're taking this word, and we're just like swapping it around. It's like when you're trying to put together like a Scrabble word, and you're like moving all the pieces, and then you're like, perfect. Can we throw in an extra David?
Yeah,
I think that people will understand better.
Put like the A at the end?
Yes. So it's basically the same thing. I mean,
unbelievable. Again, just like another bigger dick contest.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world?
Guys, like these name changes, the same reason that David changed his name, like it can lead to cover-ups. It's a lot. Like, can you imagine trying to trace this back? Like
it's so confusing.
That one single paragraph right there is in the simplest form you could make it.
And it's all within, you started in the 30s to the 80s? Like, 50 years. That is not a long time for all of those changes to occur.
Right. So, beware of groups that change names and people who change names.
Yeah, it's also that they don't have to pay taxes, and clearly,
which we found out happened.
Contest.
Yes.
Okay.
So here are the happenings. We're at the point where David has taken over the Branch Davidians. So he was under fire. Like this, obviously, like there's years go by, blah, 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 blah. People talk. These people are completely excluded from the secular world. So David all of a sudden becomes under fire for allegations of sexual and physical abuse, including quote-unquote marriages to already married and single women. So people are like, what the fuck?
Right. And that's illegal at that time.
Yes.
I mean, it clearly still is, but yeah.
And David alone had 24 kids.
Wow.
Yeah, 24. Gross. Okay.
Damn.
So these children were meant to be the elders of the future church after the return of Christ. So he's like, pump them out, pump them out, pump them out. After a 6-month investigation concerning the sexual abuse, the Texas Child Protection Services found no evidence. So...
Well, because everyone's fucking brainwashed, and they're like, no, nothing happened during interviews. He loves us. Like,
it's even deeper. So the physical abuse side of things did raise some questions. It wasn't so clear cut, but as far as the sexual abuse, they were like, we have nothing. Right. Physical abuse are like, we'll just keep an eye on things. Sexual abuse, nothing. So this is one of the biggest issues is all reports came from ex-members. So there was no really other witnesses. Like there was one guy who was in a custody battle with his, I'm assuming, wife who was in the church. So like he claimed to witness things, but these are all ex-members. These are all people who I'm sure looked like from the outside, like people who were burned, like trying to get back at the church for being kicked out. So that it did create some issues, but these reports from these former members recall unruly spankings, beating children with sticks, and a wooden paddle known as the helper, fathering children with underage girls, some of them as young as 11, like making an 11-year-old the wife. Obviously, I don't think 11-year-old could produce a baby, but
unless she
marrying and sexually abusing kids as young as 10, 11 years old.
That is so gross.
Yes. He would make the children fight each other to prepare for like the end of the world battle. And if they didn't, they were beaten or starved.
Oh my God. Can you imagine?
No.
Like, I can't even, like, that's just so sickening. Yep. I just don't understand, like, why? Why not just...
Control, power.
I guess. And at the end of the day, he wants them to be scared of him. And he wants them to obey. But it's like there's so many other things that these cult leaders could have done to get people to obey.
Yeah.
It's like a dog. Like, if you beat a dog...
That's going to bring me to my next point. But go ahead.
Yeah. But seriously, if you beat a dog, the dog is going to be scared of you. But if you reward the dog for good behavior, the dog's going to be loyal to you.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like, why not reward these children and people with good things?
Yeah.
Like, fucking give them a piece of candy or something.
We'll get into that too.
I don't fucking know. Like, why do you know what I I mean?
That's just it. Is like it's kind of like a work environment. If you are strict but you reward your people, then they're going to be not just obedient, they're going to be loyal.
Yeah, they're going to get their job done.
Constantly micromanaging, constantly abusing your employees, they're either going to leave or turn on you. Like,
right.
Or they're going to, I don't know, be depressed and live awful lives. So,
yeah.
But again, it's the cult aspect and it's that control, and we'll get into it. So,
yeah. Wow.
He started telling the children that they need to refer to their parents as dogs. Because he was the only father. So now we're going to start to see, like, the worst forms of narcissism and the confidence, and back to you, Leos. He got really creative with how to control people.
Yeah.
And
he was not sensitive whatsoever.
No.
It's like full on sociopathic vibes. Like, he does not care. He's not emotional about it, and except for being, like, angry. But he's not like, oh, that hurts my heart to whoop this kid's ass.
Right.
Or, oh, it hurts my soul, to break apart a family, or to have the child call dad dog. Like,
yeah, can you
what?
imagine?
And not like DAWG dog, or DOGG Snoop Dogg.
D-O-double-G.
Like, yeah, like, not like those kinds of dogs. Like,
yeah, just
you are a piece of shit.
Yeah, no, we're talking about, like, a mutt. So,
wow.
He would give the girls a plastic Star of David to symbolize they had light and they were ready for sex with the leader, aka the Messiah. Women and men were strictly separated. There was like a really strict rule of celibacy, which is really ironic, but like, are we surprised it's a cult?
No.
So
celibacy unless you're having sex with David, aka God.
Yes. They being David, would discuss sex openly with the young girls, even in Bible lessons. So he was making it very known, like, what he wanted.
Yeah.
So this Mount Carmel place that they're at has no plumbing.
Nope.
No electricity.
Nope.
No heat and air.
Nope.
And if you Google pictures of it, it's a pretty big place.
And we're in the 90s, so they got the means to have all this shit.
We're also in Texas, where it is hot.
Fucking hot.
And they're in the middle of nowhere. And at this point, I think at the largest this group was somewhere around 100 people. Tons of kids running around. I mean, you can only imagine how gross this place was.
Oh, God, can you imagine the smell?
They were using pots, obviously, for the restroom, having to empty those every single day. It's just this place. But this was a seed planted from day one by David, because remember his followers, he basically forced them to sleep in these camps for 2 years, and he saw then, okay, if I can get them to do this in camps and not knowing where our next meal comes from, I've got this shit on lock.
Yeah, I can get them to do anything.
Yep. So on top of all of these horrible living conditions, they were, like, food deprived, mainly because this group had, like, no money. I think the only people that were allowed to leave were people who were, like, going out to get groceries, and, like, they had to have income from somewhere. People also, like, gave up their livelihoods for this group.
Yeah, and correct me if I'm wrong. Like, people would go to grocery stores and, like, beg for food or beg for money or even steal. Too, or like dumpster dive and stuff like that to get like food.
This group was truly poor. Like, even David himself is not like harvesting secret money anywhere. No. And now these people gave up all their shit, but it was immediately put into the group. So they were food deprived. The girls were allowed, it's weird rules. So again, this is a really popular thing with cults, is having very meticulous, odd rules. And again, it's a power thing. It's a control, it's a brainwashing tactic. And we read in that one, I forget which group it was, and it really made sense that if your brain is filled with, you know, I've got walking on eggshells, I got to step right foot, left foot, left foot, then you have no time to think process. About the abuse. You don't have time to think about running away. So
it's just like second by second.
Yes. David basically did the same thing. So girls were allowed to sleep in as long as they wanted.
Oh,
sleep in.
I would love that.
Get your beauty rest. Boys,
you
however,
would too.
I'm like,
especially recently.
Done.
Miss, I've been sleeping till 10 a.m. every day.
Look at the skin. Okay, so Boys had to get up at 5:30 for what they called gym, which included marching, drilling with actual firearms, basically like a boot camp to prepare for the apocalypse.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So sucks to be a boy.
Wow, sucks to be them.
So, CPS.
Yeah.
Anytime CPS made these visits, obviously people cleaned up.
Mm-hmm.
And while everyone's told to be on their best behavior, these people are brainwashed. So I would venture to say most of these people somewhere still think that like what they're doing is okay.
Yeah.
They're also being told constantly that anything outside of their bubble is of the devil. If you go against it, your parents will die, your friends will die, everyone will die, we'll blow up. All these horrible things will happen if you believe these men. Like, these men are going to show up. They're going to look like nice people, and they're not. They're of the devil. They're here to destroy what we are working on. So when we say that, like, sometimes these cult members are, like, forced, almost like a gun to their head, it's like, you're going to find out that a lot of these people really actually believed the shit.
Yeah, or they really did have a gun to their head to believe some of the stuff too.
Also, it was noted because one of the biggest things when like CPS or some sort of institution inspects these cults or these compounds is they look at the education level of the kids.
Yeah.
And none of these kids had any formal schooling. The only thing they could discover was like Bible studies, but they all were seemingly well educated.
Wow.
Like, they were kids that responded, well dressed, clean.
And they responded probably like any other normal child would. So CPS was like, oh, well, no, it's fine. Like, they have this compound here, but...
Yeah, well, they're fine. So, more on kind of what happens inside the group. It's kind of typical cult shit. Women wore long blouses. It was really modest. There was no makeup or jewelry. Celibacy was forced on everyone. Everyone was told where they could sleep, what they could eat. So some of the weird diet stuff.
Yeah.
No dairy or large amounts of eggs. Wow, I did not read
large amounts of eggs.
Large amounts of fruits or vegetables were incorporated. So, like, you'd be lacking protein.
Right.
Because you'd be eating all this other stuff.
Right.
No sugar, no processed foods, specifically no milk, but because it's quote-unquote baby's food and we're adults.
Wow.
So, like, just weird.
Like, weird little
really,
things.
like, these people weren't properly nourished at all.
Mm-mm.
So, he obviously dove into like individual families, as we kind of have talked about, but there was lots of manipulation. Like, if a mother got too close to her child, more so than David. So like, if mom felt close to kid, but kid didn't feel as close to David as he did mom, then David would say that there's a lack of discipline, or they're not disciplining enough or rightfully, and he would give your child away to someone else.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I remember like reading about him separating the children from the mothers.
Yeah. And sometimes punishment, at least according to the ex-members, was rape.
Yeah.
So that's awful.
Yeah, that's sad.
There was always public shamings. Anytime you did something wrong, meetings were constantly called to point you out, to shame you publicly, to
embarrass you.
Yeah, just awful. Again, teachings, hellfire, damnation, and he was getting more and more outrageous, going obviously for a shock factor with all of this.
Well, yeah, because it's all being allowed, and nobody's like saying, no, you're going too far, so he's going to keep going.
Right. So, whether it's CPS or who it is, there was someone who was invited into the church, and I believe it was Texas CPS or someone along those lines, but they would ask questions to the kids or to the members like, well, what would happen if you didn't do this stuff? Well, like, what would happen? And all of their answers were always, everyone dies, things blow up.
Yeah.
Lots of references to explosions.
Yeah.
So while, like, I get it, end of the world, it's Armageddon, they noted specifically they're talking about a lot of explosions, and so they speculated that this compound was booby-trapped because that's all we're talking about.
Yeah, but they had bombs.
Yes. So because of this tipped off the ATF, which is arson. Shit. It's
Armed
like the
tactical force. Armed tactical force.
It stands for something else. I swear. Okay, now I gotta Google this because I was like,
Armed Tactical Force.
ATF. It's something in firearms. Something to alcohol, tobacco, firearms. The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms.
What?
Yes.
I thought it was Armed Tactical Force.
Well, that's another ATF.
I'm a dumb bitch.
No, I had to Google it too because that's what I thought, and I just wanted to be sure. So,
alcohol, tobacco, and firearms.
Bureau of, yes.
Oh, Bureau.
Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms. So they're part of like the regulation.
Okay.
But with all these tips and keep in mind too, this is something I forgot to mention. David and the members are stockpiling firearms and ammo, and they are aware of this. Now we're in Texas.
That's where all the money's going.
Yes, but we're talking like more than necessary. And so this tips off the ATF. And they decide to plan a siege of Waco, specifically regarding all the guns and ammunition and other potential weapons. So they planned it for February 28th, 1993. Best year, other than this. Best year.
She's so dumb.
So a gun battle breaks out between the ATF and the Waco members. It kills 4 ATF agents and 6 Branch Davidians. Shortly after this happens, they realize, okay, we've got a situation on our hands, and the FBI comes in and is like, we're taking over this situation.
Yeah.
Which was kind of an issue. It's not that the ATF was really on their side, but ATF, I felt like, was trying to go about it as peacefully as possible, even though it didn't end well. FBI was like, we're coming in guns a-blazing.
Like, we don't care.
Yes. So they finally, because again, no electricity, they somehow wire this phone to David. Yeah. And they finally have contact with David. And the negotiations begin. So David tells them, I need time to write these letters from God. Right. And they're kind of like, bullshit. We know you're stockpiling weapons. We know there's kids, and we know there's abuse. Like, we know all this stuff. Like, come out. And so David's like, no. So there's 754 calls exchanged. I don't even think I make that many phone calls in a year. Yes.
Like, wasted time.
Well, speaking of time, this siege lasts 51 days.
Right.
Almost 2 months.
Yeah.
So, as you can imagine,
unbelievable.
Things inside the compound aren't good. Like, if you walk outside to, let's say, clean your pot, like, you are at risk of, if you're an insider, I'm sure in your mind you're thinking, I'm at risk of these hellions.
Yeah.
Basically, like, the Satan coming to capture us. Or you're scared of being sieged or dying, and then but from, like, the police perspective, they're trying to be calm. They know these people are highly armed. They're expecting explosives, and so it's like, it's really tough.
It's very, very high stress.
High stress.
On both ends, because at the end of the day, the people that are in there are brainwashed, and they don't understand.
Yeah, they just want the FBI to leave.
Yeah, and then the FBI is like, no, like, we want to help these innocent people, but we need these weapons.
Right. And also keep in mind, we're talking about almost 2 months. We're talking about people whose food and water and everything was already restricted.
Yeah.
That shit's going bye-bye real fast.
Right.
So people are
panicking,
losing their freaking minds.
Yeah.
David at one point says over the phone, that, again, if you guys will just go away, we'll surrender after I write my letters. He wants all of these negotiations, and the FBI is not having it.
No.
They are like,
no,
not having it.
We're not negotiating with, and, you know, that's them thinking that he's like a terrorist in some way, and they're not going to negotiate with terrorists.
Exactly. So at this point, FBI does consider this a hostage crisis, and they bring in the tanks, the helicopters, the everything, and so they have these tanks with the big thing that pushes, like, through walls.
Right.
What am I thinking?
I don't know what it's called, but I know what you're talking about.
So, no. So they plow through the door. They send tear gas all throughout this compound.
Yep.
Let's see, their gunfire is going off. David has suffered from a serious gun wound injury. So, this is the bad part. Not that all of this other shit wasn't bad, but April 19th, 1993, that's when it was officially approved for FBI to raid the compound, hence, the tear gas, all that. So it's CS gas. People inside can't breathe. They feel like they're on fire. They can't see. They overloaded these people with tear gas. Right. During this time, the compound has caught fire, and it is speculated how this happened. Again, we already were speculating explosives inside, but it doesn't matter at this point. The whole place is on fire. So they wait. Well, one, they think, okay, the tear gas is going to send people out. Right. It doesn't. Mm-mm. Then the place catches on fire. They think this will send people out. It does not. All the while, David is contacting Waco police or some local police saying, if you get the FBI out of here and let us exit peacefully, we will exit. I thought that was interesting. That went on deaf ears. I think.
Well, and I think it's because it had been almost 2 months. Yeah. 2 months of him bullshitting the authorities. And so they're like, no, absolutely not. We are at our wits' end. Yeah. We want the weapons. We don't want anyone else to die. And at the end of the day, we will pump this place full of gas. And by him calling, saying yet another negotiation, they're like, no, we're not fucking with it. Yeah. You had 2 months. You had 2 months to do this, to exit. Yeah. And you didn't.
So, there was also, unknowing to the FBI, at this point, people are getting shot on the inside, including children. But there were also secret bunkers inside of the compound for the apocalypse situations. And there were specifically women and children who were barricaded inside, unable to escape.
Because of the fire.
Because of the fire, because of the tear gas, because of everything that's happening.
And I think it's one thing, sorry to interrupt you. Fine. I think it's one thing to note, David would not let these people leave. And his members, the forcible men with the guns, would not let these people leave. Right. They would try to leave, or they would want to leave, and they wouldn't let them leave.
Right. It was just an awful call all around. So many things could have been handled differently. Yeah. In the end, 76 branch members, and 21 of them being under the age of 16, perished. David, who at the time that this happened is 33 years old, dies of a gunshot wound to the head. Yeah. In the chapel. So it's speculated he either killed himself. He also had a right-hand man. Yeah. Who it's speculated
he shot him.
Shot him either because out of frustration, or David said, shoot me. But this person also commits suicide. Yeah. So, of the 76 people, 20 people, including 5 kids, 20 people. Of those 20 people, 5 kids under the age of 14 had been shot. Mm-hmm. So that is strictly from FBI agents, not from within the compound.
How do they know that, though?
Because of the bullet trajectory. FBI were shooting up the place.
Got it.
Yeah. So, I know this is a movie, but if you watch the Waco docuseries on Netflix, it gives you a great portrayal of all of the reports. They did a fantastic, I was sobbing. They did a fantastic job of explaining where the FBI also kind of went overboard. But because of bullet trajectory, because these people really did think that there was going to be a second coming, that what they were doing was right. They were holding people hostage, yes, but for the sake of, you can't go against protection. God. Yeah. So they weren't necessarily killing their own people.
There were some people that wanted to leave.
Yeah, there were people who wanted to leave, but those weren't the people getting shot. No. At least not according to everything. Yeah. So 20 people again were shot. There was one child who had been under the age of 3 who had been stabbed in the chest.
Oh my God.
So whether that be from a parent trying to like just get it over with,
because they didn't want the child to suffer.
They didn't want the child to suffer, but it's also could be speculated because of the raid and things are falling, things are crumbling, things are just like, guys, this was chaos. Like, total chaos. It is. Please just go watch the Netflix docuseries. The portrayal is spot on of everything that you read. It's so good. Okay. So fast forward to kind of modern day. Fun fact, not fun fact, terrible fact. Scratch that. We're not being insensitive. Okay. The OKC bombers cited that the Waco siege was an inspiration for their attack on April 19th, 1995, the 2-year anniversary of Waco. That's sick. Those are some sick fuckers.
Yeah.
So,
city bomber.
Actions... we kind of just covered this, but just to kind of wrap it up. Actions taken against the group by the FBI have been widely criticized.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of gross.
Yeah.
As extreme and unwarranted. And while this process did take a long time, and they were sick of David Koresh's, like they argued that you could have done other more productive things in those 51 days.
Yeah. What the fuck? Like why? I'm sorry. All they had to do was after a couple of days. Throw the tear gas in then. You know what I mean?
Like, just wait.
Yeah, like
just
wait it out.
Wait.
You don't have to shoot them out. You don't have to do all that
and they
bullshit.
Unleashed.
Right.
They unleashed.
Right. And so if they would have just done that, some people would have laughed.
Yeah.
You know, at the end of the day, they could have gone about this so many different ways. And, you know, they didn't. They could have gone into the place. I mean, it would have been like a gunfire situation or a shootout situation, but they could have gone into the place and tried to capture, you know, David Koresh.
Just something. So
or they could have waited down the street, and when people leave, you kidnap them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Send undercover people in to join the group.
Right.
Like, that was one of my thoughts.
Like, why didn't they even think about that?
I don't know.
It's so weird.
I really feel like this goes back to the ATF. Felt like they had this under wraps, and when the FBI stood in, it was like a big dick competition once again.
Another
we're
bigger
gonna get this shit done. There was also something about a note was passed, like that was from David to the person in charge with a negotiation, and it went ignored. Like, there's just a lot of questions, but here's a few of them. Who started the fire? Obviously, we could blame it on the compound. We could blame it by accident because of all the fucking CS gas that was released.
With the bullets and
everything else. Or an FBI tactic. That they're like, we'll blow up this portion of the building to start pushing people outwards. The next is the question of who shot first, because when the gunfire broke out, that's ultimately what just started the chaos.
And the FBI said that the compound shot first.
Right.
That's why because they felt threatened and they didn't want anybody else dying that was part of the authorities.
Right. Also, this was a huge thing that also came from ex-members, people who weren't about the church anymore, but they said, people were always going outside. Obviously they were trying to be self-sustainable, but they were kind of out in a country area. David frequently left to go on jogs, and they're like, why didn't you just
kidnap him?
Take him, capture him then.
Yeah.
And then all of this we could have at least started to tear down the walls. So there's a lot of questions as to the tactics, but it all kind of came down to a prejudice against the group, which also was warranted because we're talking about abused kids.
Yeah. I mean, it's just so crazy. It could have been handled so many different ways.
Yeah. So David's body was buried in the Last Supper section of a cemetery in Tyler, Texas.
What the hell?
Crazy. 9 Davidians managed to escape the fire that day, and the group has actually not completely dissolved. Mm-mm. So this was as of 2013, the article that I was reading. Right. The new name is called Branch. Guys, another name. Drink every time you hear a name. The new name is called Branch, the Lord our righteousness. And the compound is in Waco.
Of course it is.
Yep, and these people do believe that David Koresh will rise from the dead to lead again.
Sad.
And their only regret is, quote, God didn't serve them better.
Oh my gosh.
What the fuck?
You know, it's like you've got to sympathize with idiocracy some sort of way, because
they're brainwashed.
They're brainwashed. And some of these people were born into this church, right? So it's like, I don't even want to call it a church. They were born into this compound. So they don't know any better. No. But then it's like, it's 2022. Like, you should know better. There's a fucking Netflix documentary. There's movies. There's so many documentaries about this shit. Like,
but even look at, and this isn't like I'm playing devil's advocate here, but like, even look at the Christian church, and you have so many branches that believe so many different things. Like, some of them think that if you're even friends with a gay person, you're doomed to hell. Yeah, and some of them embrace all forms of love. It doesn't matter. But then you look at some, like, you walk into some churches where people are fully armed, where they preach about, the Second Amendment. And then there's other, like, there's so much division. So much division, and so much, like, we're going to do things our way, and we're going to handle life. And so then you take these people who, they're deserted. Like, they are completely secluded from society. They fully believe these are this guy is the Messiah. And if you truly believe the apocalypse was coming, and anybody that approached your door is a bad person, like, you're going to be scared to leave too.
Yeah, you're going to be terrified. And like, one of the things that the Bible says is that you shouldn't be scared. You shouldn't live your life in fear. And so if they believe in anything from God, like, wouldn't you think that they would believe in, like, that? And it's like they're living their life in fear.
Or just peacekeeping. But I think it was instilled in them that they would die. Like, they made that very clear. And also, throughout this whole, I mean, I don't want to speak for, like, all these members, but I read so many interviews from, obviously, before the siege, that were like, we love David. David's a great guy. The kids loved him. The kids called him father. Now, granted, take it with a grain of salt. Could be brainwashed, but it could, I mean, there's still some truth to being brainwashed. Like, I don't know.
Crazy.
Cults are just so fascinating, and how they fully take over
someone's life.
Your life. But I mean, it's kind of like, in my opinion, it's like any addiction.
Yeah.
You get addicted to coffee, you get addicted to a person.
Right.
And there's just no wrong with it. You can't see how it destroys you. Only people from the outside can see it.
Right.
So it's
such a great story, though.
So good, guys. Again, I'm going to say it for the last time. Go watch the Netflix docu-series. I wanted to watch it all over again after this.
So good.
Like, down to the actors. They nailed it. They nailed it. And that was my first time. I had obviously heard of the Waco cult. Like, I had heard of... That was my first time, like, seeing the story. And my mind was blown.
Yeah.
I was like, whoa, this is the worst thing to ever happen.
Such a good story.
These people, I mean, at least the members, for the most part, there were so many innocent people who just wanted to, like, do the right thing.
Yeah.
Obviously the kids, but that final shootout, like, you just want to, like...
You're like, what the fuck? And I want to say, too, like, at the end of that Netflix docu-series, you feel so bad for the ATF agents, because they're like, no, we were making headway. Like, no, we were invited in. Like, no, we had this connection. We were going somewhere. They trusted us.
Yeah.
And then, boom, FBI gets there, and they're like, nope, we're going to take over. Which I get it. Like, it had been 2 months. So I get that.
There's a jurisdiction thing, too.
Yeah. Again, a bigger dick contest, this whole fucking story. That's what the story should be called. Episode 46, Bigger Dick Contest.
That's it.
That's it.
But the thumbnail's going to have little penises everywhere.
Yeah, little penis emojis or eggplant, whatever. But seriously, like, it's just so wild. It's so wild, and it's so sad.
Guys, the moral of the story is just don't join a cult. I hate to victim blame,
unless it's our cult.
Unless it's ours.
Join the Something Sinister podcast cult.
I'm not going to make you have sex with me. I'm going to make you have sex with Alexa.
We're just going to make you give us your money, and that way you can fully support the podcast, and we don't have to work. All we have to do work-wise is this.
That sounds like a great deal for us. So if you want to join our cult, head over to our Patreon. But that's it for today. So thank you to our Patreon members, guys. We are going to the podcast movement next month.
Woo! Next month. My God. It's literally like a month away.
Yes.
It's crazy. Like a month and a week away.
So I know you're sick of hearing us beg for money, but we just have to do it. So like not everyone listens to every single episode, but you can support the podcast through our Patreon. We've got PayPal. We've got, you can send us checks in the mail.
Merch.
So go to somethingsinisterpodcast.com. If you want to start your own podcast,
let us know.
We're going to send you a link. You'll get an Amazon gift card when you sign up on Buzzsprout. They're the best.
If you're local, August 10th, we are hosting a second.
I totally forgot.
I know. We are hosting a second trivia night in Branson, Missouri at St. Cities. So please come and support your girls. So again, if you're local to the tri-state area, come hang out. August 10th, St. Cities, 8 to 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. We will be hosting our second trivia night. And let me just say, we fucking killed it.
Oh my God.
We killed it.
Trivia night was so fun.
Yeah.
We even got the sports people involved.
We did. There were people there that were there for the hockey game, for the families, for the baseball game, and they all came and hung out and played, and it was so much fun.
So we're doing it again.
And we're going to definitely add it to our resume.
Yeah, professional trivia hosts.
Yeah.
Honestly, it was a blast. I had so much fun.
Yeah, and so fun. We will definitely travel to do trivia night. You've just got to fly us out, and the establishment has to pay us.
Yeah,
so
it's that simple, guys.
It's that simple. If you want us to come to Florida, Hawaii, California, Colorado, wherever, Spain,
Israel,
let us know. Yeah, right. We might
Tokyo,
get imprisoned in Israel, but we'll try it.
Yes.
We'll try it.
Okay. So, well, guys, thanks for tuning in.
Yes.
Don't join a cult
unless it's ours. Stay sinister.
Bye.